Welcome to TGS, Transform, Grow, Succeed. This podcast is about your work as a caring professional and the wicked systemic issues that all of us are transforming into opportunities to achieve excellence in any environment. My name is Dr. Tim Gravoy, Executive Director of TGS Educational Consulting. I'm excited to introduce Cristela Cardenas, Principal of Sonoran Science Academy East in Tucson, Arizona. Since second grade, Cristela knew that she was going to be a teacher, coming from a long line of teachers herself and her family. Cristela has been an educator for 30 years, 13 in school leadership. As a teacher, Cristela taught almost every single grade level, except for some reason, fourth grade. It just worked out that way, I guess, and has been a school leader at the middle school, high school, and elementary school level, and it is at a K-8 right now. Cristela totally loves watching The Bachelor and has some big goals for her powerlifting competitions in November and in February. Cristela, did I get that right?
You got it, all of it.
Excellent. I love it when I get it right. And hey, if there's anything that I get wrong, make sure you let me know. I've had the privilege, it truly is a privilege, of working with Sonoran Science Academy East, that particular campus, for 6 years now, and to implement positive behavior interventions and support at all 3 tiers of intervention. It's been amazing work, and there's any number of aspects of your PBIS practice at East, for goodness sakes, that we could be talking about on the show. I think we counted, it was like 2.2 instances of student recognition per student per day. Like, that's just crazy cakes, amazing. The level of recognition that she got going on there. It's just beautiful. But what's really interesting and what I want to talk about today is your equity data, because I noticed something really interesting that deserves some exploration, namely that students with individualized education plans, IEPs, are less likely than any other student on your campus to generate any kind of disciplinary referral at all, teacher managed or office managed. And I'm wondering, why do you think that is?
So I think the biggest piece for us is ensuring that we have those very specific relationships built with those students. The classroom teacher, teacher of record, or teacher of records, for all the different core classes that they take in middle school. But really ensuring that we have that safeguard for our students to manage them within their realm in order for them to succeed, know what their behavior issues are, know what their life is like at home, know what they like to eat, what they don't, if they had a good night's sleep. A lot of it is just conversation based, and we do some of the things that's called like a 2x10, which I don't know, I think we've talked about that before, but what we do is we focus on 2 students for 10 days and really focus on who they are. And a lot of them oftentimes come to be our bottom 25% students, which some of our IEP students fall into that category, unless they're like behavioral, but they fall into that category. And we have specific and intentional times that we meet with those children on a daily basis, teachers, administrators, any of us. And that's how we kind of started our first few years. And it's kind of just come to be norm here. And we make it important for us to get to know those kids, just random conversations. And I think that really helps the students feel confident and feel comfortable to share when they're having a difficult time, to be able to communicate their lack of understanding with the academics, or when they're ready to blow up or have something happen. And right when those things occur, teachers tend to recognize the positive behavior that child just exhibited because they've recognized themselves what they've done. We also definitely are always giving out incentives. Teachers do team points, and we often let those students be our team leaders in the classroom. We keep them busy by doing leadership jobs in the cafeteria. For example, our middle school students, we have leadership roles that our middle school students can come and actually take one day. They have to make sure that their grades are kept up, but they go in and actually support by the class, the cafeteria, and they will actually work with the students in the cafeteria, and then they'll play games with them at recess, which is really nice. And our middle school students absolutely love that. That also helps with our middle school students on IEPs that have great, need some social cues, things like that. It builds their confidence, their self-esteem. So that's a huge positive incentive. Um, but I also think it's communicating with parents, most importantly, and sharing when there are issues that arise, whether it's a teacher making the communication via email, class dojo, making a phone call, or we doing it by supporting the teacher, or even with a child here, we make those phone calls. It's so important for us, but most important, it's like we have to have that safeguard for our kids, IEPs or not, but really for our IEP students, because we want them to feel confident with what they're doing and how much they're growing, because their success is huge. The littlest thing for them makes the biggest impact on their day. And it could be the positive, it could be the negative, and that could be the tell-all of how their day is going to go. So we really look at that from the beginning. What day do we want to have, and how are we going to make it happen? And that's huge. And we start our days with those types of SEL lessons in the morning, every 20 minutes in the morning.
So my goodness, I want to, we got a lot to unpack there. So let's do it. Because I want to take a look at all of those just practices right here. Here's some that I heard that has stuck out with me that I would love to hear a bit more about. And one is the 2x10 or 2x20?
Yeah, 2x10.
Could we start with the 2x10 maybe?
Sure.
Just tell me more. Tell me all about the 2x10.
So the 2x10 it's a strategy where we choose 2 students in the classroom, and we work with those students for 2 minutes every single day for 10 days. And we really find a way to seriously, with the purpose in mind, obviously, because a lot of the times there are behavior students. They are our students with IEPs, students that just have struggles, and maybe moving into the IEP, into the RTI piece where they're on the tier 3 end. And it could be tier 3 for behavior, it could be for academic, or both. So what we really want to do is really hone in on that student, and just on who they are, and really getting to know the specifics. Doesn't matter if they're in kinder, they can be in 8th grade, it doesn't matter. So it's just about getting to know the whole child themselves.
Well, why? There's no standard for that.
Nope. But that for me as a
I believe it. Just to be clear, I agree on this 100%.
But you're absolutely right. But we look at the importance of relationships, and that's how students learning, that impacts their learning. If we have a positive relationship with our students, that's going to ensure that that child feels successful in that classroom. And giving them those 2 minutes every day, just 2 undivided intentional minutes, we've seen the impact on just how much more social and how much more confident and academically that they're wanting to do, they were wanting to perform. And you see that in the classrooms, and then you get to see it each year, how much more they grow, because other teachers may choose to use the same students the next year. Usually we try to do it to where going through every single student, all the students throughout the school year, and we circle back to the most needed students. And oftentimes they are our little ones, our lower level students that are in tier 3 or have IEPs, because they do academically struggle and they exhibit. And we look at our Swiss data based upon, also that's a big piece. We look at our data to ensure, like, we see that they're avoiding their tasks. We look at those antecedents. When are they avoiding those tasks? And those are some of the purposes that make it intentional. So I need to communicate with this student maybe at this time, because this is when I'm seeing these issues occur. Maybe or they're just wanting to get attention. So I need to give attention at this time, so that way this doesn't occur. So we kind of have to ensure that we're looking at the child themselves, but we also take the data facets as well to make that part of the priority for the intentional conversations. And we look at that as academic. Why are you struggling with this? What is making it difficult? And so let's talk about that. So when you're at home, do you work on multiplication tables? Okay, great. So what about this game? Let's try this game. Do you think you might tell me how you like it tonight? We can try it tonight. Let's talk about it tomorrow. It's just those little things, because then I could see during math time, Timmy is really struggling with multiplication facts, and he was given a referral during math class. So again, that's going back to, there's where I'm going to build my conversation.
Yeah.
And so it's just that continuous circling, and then inviting the parents and letting them know that they've been chosen to have this wonderful 2x10 time, and they're one of the students that they're going to be working with, and building that relationship with their child, but also with them as a parent as well, and getting feedback from them.
So
So that's
really, it just sounds like you're just picking students that need a little extra love somehow, and you're just spending 2 whole minutes with them,
Mhm.
and it's around anything, really.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
you
but
can
it's
also,
not random exactly. It's intentional. Like there's a purpose behind it, and the purpose is really that relationship.
right. And a lot of it too, Tim, is you have to, when I look at IEP students, some of it is also one of my biggest pet peeves as a principal is when we don't know our students. When I
Mm,
walk into a classroom as a teacher, we should know the child's name. I should know if there's a 504. I should know if there's an IEP, academic issues, behavior issues, whatnot, because I'm tuned in.
mhm.
And it's important for our teachers to have a full awareness of our students with IEPs and 504s, and even our gen ed students as well. But if those students have some major needs, we need to get to dig deep and look at what those needs are in the IEP, the 504. What are those goals, and how can I assess those when I'm working with the student in the classroom? And the 2x10 really can help give teachers some guidance with that.
Do you know what I love about it though? Is because you're right. We do need to dig deep. And very often though, in this IEP process, it seems like the one voice that's almost always missing from that process is almost always the youth that we say we're trying to serve. It's almost always them. And
Mhm.
sometimes you might see at the middle school and high school level, the
Right.
students might participate a bit more actively at their meetings. But even then, it's like one youth versus in a room full of adults,
Right.
like sometimes. And what you're doing is creating a way for the adults to get the data. I mean, it is data of a kind,
Sure.
but directly from the person who matters most, and that's the young person involved. And so what do you think that has to do though with why students with IEPs in your site are so much less likely to receive a referral than other students at East?
I think a lot of it is that they feel confident, and now they've built more confidence in themselves and communicating
Mhm.
their thoughts, their feelings, their anger. They're starting to learn some of those coping strategies, and
Mhm.
that definitely has really helped. They feel like they found somebody that they can go to and speak to and feel safe, and a lot, rather than acting out. It's not to say kids don't act out, but it's far easier to redirect the student now, especially with our students with IEPs. And they're
Mhm.
so busy, their schedule. And that's the other thing, is that they are so scheduled. Their routines are scheduled. Like, they know at this time, this CSS teacher is coming,
Yeah.
or this intervention teacher is coming. And our teachers have their schedules written down on the board, and then they check off what they do. They know their standards every day. They know their essential questions, their vocabulary. So they
Yeah.
know the expectation. And then when they struggle, they have a question, or and they can ask it, and they feel comfortable asking. As they get older, it's become to where they know they come into the classroom and work within that classroom. And the great part is, in that classroom, it's not just a 2x10 in that ESS room. That ESS room really becomes a room that's safe for students to communicate with their, like, for us as colleagues, those are their colleagues, and that's how they look at each other. They see each other as colleagues to support one another in their learnings. And
Mhm.
when they struggle, they find ways to support and help each other. And that was a relationship built with our ESS teacher, Miss Starts, who's phenomenal.
Mhm.
And she has done that so well over the last 3 years, that those students are so connected. And every year when you see some of those kids go, there's a lot of crying. So, but that's why they go to her and they communicate with her, or she brings them to us and we communicate and we work things out to minimize situations that can possibly become bigger.
Mhm. So it sounds like really the biggest thing that you're doing there is you're helping students to meet their needs.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have another kind of question to ask, and I'll ask it after break. But what I'm wondering about is you've been in education a long time. You've even taught special education. I don't know if we got to that in your bio, but you've taught even some students with some pretty marked behavioral needs. In fact, even in your career, so it means you've written many an IEP yourself. Actually, I wonder, is there anything about the things is there anything about the way the IEPs are written at East that might be different than how IEPs are somehow written perhaps at other places? And whether it's yes or no, I think it's going to be delicious to explore because your data doesn't look like other schools' data when it comes to students with IEPs. So let's take a break. And when we come back, let's talk a bit more about how we can create more effective supports for students with individualized education plans.
Perfect.
Hi there, this is Dr. Tim, and I'm inviting you to save June 19th through the 23rd, 2023 here in Tucson, Arizona, because we're going to be having PBIS multi-tiered system of support training. And just so you know, I want to share that this is not a trainer of trainers workshop. TGS Educational Consulting doesn't offer trainer of the trainers workshops because they really don't work. However, if you've been told that you're in charge of PBIS for your school or your district, and the last time you had a training was A, never, or B, more than 10 years ago, you will leave our week able to lead professional learning at your site based on your site's unique context. Or maybe you're on your school's PBIS team and you're wondering if there is more to PBIS than just tickets and posters. Well, there is, and you're going to leave with a comprehensive knowledge base to support the rest of PBIS at your site. You've probably heard that PBIS has multiple tiers, and you might even be pretty sure that your school stopped at Tier 1. Attending this training will help you build connections between levels of PBIS implementation and start your action planning process effectively. Join us June 19th through 23rd in Tucson, Arizona. Check out the link to sign up. Welcome back. It's great to have you all back on the show again, and I hope you're enjoying our conversation so far with Ms. Cristela Cardenas, who is the principal at Sonoran Science Academy East. And we've been talking about why it is that at Sonoran, students with IEPs receive fewer referrals than any other student at the school. Are you just writing better plans? Is that why students with IEPs are just having such great results? Tell me about what do you think?
Well, of course we write the best IEPs. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm sure you write really good ones because I know you and you've got pretty high standards for professionalism. But tell me more though.
Yeah, I just think, we have 2 ESS teachers here, and it's been like that for the last 3 years here at our site. We've kind of restructured the ESS process where the students, it's so different here in comparison to where I came from prior. It wasn't necessarily a pull-out program. Here we do have pull-out, but it's intentional pull-out that is specific to the IEP goals of the student. And it's very structured timeframes. And the teachers know what structured timeframes those are because they are most suitable for the student during those times. So the kids are made aware of that specific structure and the expectation. Then the same thing goes for middle school. However, we do have a para in middle school who also goes into the classroom and supports the students in a small group learning frame. So it's great. I couldn't be more proud of the facets that we have put in place here. Everybody is extremely very specific, very intentional, and the goals are like that. Students are also really aware of their goals, and as they have become older, it's become more intentional for them to be able to advocate more for their own goals and what they want for themselves as they get older. They may say, I think I've done well with that, and the data may show that, but then they may say, but I'm still needing to grow on this aspect. So that's a huge component that we look at. And it's great because we even see our little ones advocating for themselves in that sense too. Especially like some of our third graders being in the classroom lately. I've had to sub myself as a principal
Mhm.
and having a few of the ESS students in my class and having to review the goals of those students. I've also had to remind myself to be very intentional and bring those students to work with one-on-one and make that time to focus on what they need and communicate and talk with them and make sure I'm meeting those needs or accommodating or modifying. But that's what it's about. It's teachers need to have that know of what's really in there and digging so that they can make sure they are doing everything that's possible for that student with that IEP or even a 504, or even students just struggling and that have fallen in that gray area, but most importantly in that 504. And I would really hone in on the structure, the digging through that our teachers have to do, ESS and gen ed teachers, and even interventionists.
Mhm.
And even me as a principal, because I sometimes have to go in and jump in too. And I need to have that bird's eye view and be all knowing as well. So that's what it's about. I think the big key word for me here, it's about intentional. And that's what we do. And I think our students are starting to own that, that they're making things intentional for themselves as well, our IEP students. And I love the fact that they're able to do that as they've gotten older. And now I can see that for 3 years of the
Mhm.
same students being in that program, and the growth that those kids have made is just it's huge. It's huge.
It's amazing. So it's really amazing to think about. And so that word intentional is a word that you used a lot. And one of the things that I heard you say that just really struck me was that, yeah, we have our IEP meetings, but it's not just like we have our meetings and good talk. It's
Right.
like it's whatever's in the IEP, we create an actual structure to make happen. We don't expect it to happen by magic. We create a time and space for it to happen. And we make sure that teachers have the opportunity to go through these documents and really understand what's in there so that we know what our responsibilities are for the students. It's almost as though if we create a plan and we do the plan, we tend to see the results of the plan.
Right. And the parents do as well. I think
Mhm.
that's another huge piece I want to share when we do have our meetings to update IEPs or review our testing data with our teachers and our ESS teacher, our administrator, and any of the teachers that like to join that are invited along with the parent. What's important is having the parent and student always advocate if this is what they really see as best, or if they need something more. And if they do need something more, we write that in the notes in the meeting minutes, and then we update the IEP as necessary and provide the parent with a new copy as soon as it's input into our ISEP program. We're going to be transferring into EIEP Pro next year, which is I'm super excited about, because as administrators, we can have access to that and be able to really see the specifics for students and look at how like everything kind of meshes into a different database, which I've used in the past. So I'm excited to see that. But I love the fact that our parents and our students can have that opportunity to share during that specific time, because it's important. Again, it's showing kids that they're important to you and what they say matters. And as long as they're following through with our school, motto of being respectful, responsible, and kind, and it always happens to it, always.
Well, it's beautiful, and so I think it's just really neat, and I love that word intention. I love that word of parents being involved in this, and not just sort of a hey, do you have any other ideas kind of a way at the end, but more of a like no, really, we need to know what you think, and we're actually writing it down in this document, and we're going to update it before we send it back to you because you're part of this team as well. So let's go ahead and take one last break. And when we come back, I'm really curious to see if we can have a final thought from you, Cristela, on what you would absolutely want a school leader to take away from our conversation today. Youth on Their Own is a local nonprofit that supports the high school graduation and continued success of Pima County youth experiencing homelessness. Since its founding in 1986, Youth on Their Own has helped thousands of young people graduate from high school and pursue their dreams. If you'd like to get involved, consider donating to Yodo's Mini Mall. Starting now, Yodo will be collecting food, hygiene products, and school supplies to help homeless youth in our community. If you'd like to make a financial contribution, don't forget that all donations to Yodo are tax deductible, and if you live in Arizona, eligible for the Arizona Charitable Tax Credit. For more information, go to yoto.org or follow Yodo on Facebook or Instagram. Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Cristela Cardenas, principal at Sonoran Science Academy East. We've been talking about a great many things, about great ways to support students with IEPs. And now it's really time, Cristela, this is your time to share a final thought. If you had a final thought for school leaders who are listening to our show today, what would it be, especially as it relates to supporting students with individualized education plans?
I think the most important part is being intentional. As a leader, I need to be all knowing, and I need to be able to have that bird's eye view as I put my hands in all the different areas at my school, and being able to take over anytime I need to take over to support my people, my students. But most importantly, I need to be able to model, I inspect what I expect. And I want my teachers to be able to do that for me. And so what I model, I want to practice what I preach, but I also want to be able to do it intentionally and with fidelity. And that's the expectation I have for my teachers is we know that they're there for a reason, and they're there for their hearts. They're there for the empathy, the compassion, but most of all is that they want to be able to lead their children to success, and any child can succeed. But most importantly, if we're going to have them succeed, how we're going to do that is ensuring that we are intentional about what we do, and we do it with fidelity and compassion, kindness, and that servant heart. So for me, those are the biggest pieces. And I think especially with our struggling students, our kiddos with IEPs or 504s or behavior issues, that's that right there. Structure, fidelity, intentional, those are huge because they need all of that. They need that. And structure is the one thing that's going to give them that. And if we are intentional about doing it and making sure we're doing it with fidelity, we're going to see some great growth. And that's what we're seeing here at East.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you being on the show. That idea of intentional, that if, what an individualized education plan, a plan is just a piece of paper. A plan is nothing until we actually do it. And it sounds like that's the intention that you're after. That we said we were going to do it. Now we need to do it. We need to do it. And that's the fidelity that you're talking about. That's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm just grateful for you. Cristela, thanks so much for being here on the show today. And thank you for sharing some amazing strategies for positive behavior intervention supports, especially as it relates to students with IEPs. And to all of our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our show. And I really do hope you reach out to me or to Cristela with your thoughts in our conversation. You can reach Cristela at ccardenas@sonoranschools.org. And you can find me at www.tgseducationalconsulting.com. I know that either of us would be delighted to share any more information about any of this. And until next time, everyone, may you have as many opportunities to be as good and generous with yourself as you are with those you serve. Have a beautiful rest of the week. Thank you.